Hey guys, welcome back. I'm so glad you're here. I am so excited to talk to you about this topic because I really think this is something that we get so wrong. And I'm very passionate about this because I think until we get this part right, it's going to continue to be something that drives us bonkers in life of how to find our purpose. And you can search and search all you want. You can go to retreats, you can Google search, you can YouTube search, you can watch videos, you can talk to gurus, you can have coaches, you can take courses, you can do all the things on how to find your purpose. But if you don't do this one thing right, I promise you, you will find yourself continuously frustrated and not understanding why you're still struggling to find your purpose. And that thing is how to listen to your soul's desires. And if you go back to any of my videos and I'm talking about how to find your purpose, you will see and hear that the way I define that is your purpose is your purpose is to carry out your soul's desires. Straightforward, no questions asked. We're done. No need to search any longer. But the second part of that is carrying out your soul's desires. And how do we do that? What does that look like? What does that mean? And this is the part that so many people get wrong. And there's a lot of reasons why they get it wrong. But one of the biggest reasons, and the reason I'm going to talk about on today's show, is people don't know how to listen to themselves. People are so disconnected from themselves that we can't even hear what our soul's desires are anymore. And we're also really not taught this, right? Like, let's just be really honest. We're not taught how to do this because we're taught to always ask for permission. We're taught to listen to whoever tells us what to do. And we're taught that from a super young age, right? Like, we're raised that way. Then we go to school. We're taught to listen to our teachers. Don't ask any questions. Don't be a challenger. Then we go to college, and that's probably like actually the most freedom we ever have. If you really think about it. I mean, we still have to listen to our professors, but at the same time, like, we get to make our own choice. Like, do I go to class today or not? Do I, whatever, like there's not really a lot of people telling us what to do in college. Interestingly enough, I think that's like one of the few times in our life where that doesn't happen. And then we graduate from college, or we graduate from the military, or we go straight into a job, whatever your path is. And now we're in a position where we're asking for permission to take vacation. We're asking for permission to take some time off to go to the doctor's office. We're asking for permission to get promoted or get paid more. And so there's a lot that's mixed into all of this. And so I think that we get very disconnected from ourselves because we're sort of raising ourselves and even into adulthood. So when I say raising, I mean even into adulthood here. We're raising ourselves as humans to have this need and this desire and this discipline to have permission for what it is we want to do. And so there's not this natural, I give myself permission thing happening. It's more based on what other people think, what other people want for you. And ultimately it just comes down to the permission to listen to yourself, right? And so I think we're very trained as humans by various sources to not necessarily be in connection with ourselves and not necessarily listen to ourselves and what we want. And so when you start getting into this work of this deep work, and I call it deep because there's always a lot of layers to peel back. The other reason people are really struggling to find their purpose is because they're conditioned, right? They're really, really conditioned to believe something about themselves or believe what they should be doing or believe what kind of amount of money they should make or whatever. So there's a lot of deconditioning that has to happen in order to be able to connect with ourselves, to know what we want to do, to basically carry out our soul's desires. Again, the definition of what your purpose is to carry out your soul's desires. And the reason we struggle so badly with that, so many reasons, the ones I already mentioned, but also because they're just constantly disconnected from ourselves. And so the one thing I wanted to share on today's show was a massive component, or like the key to getting over that or getting through that or figuring out how to not fall into that conditioning, not fall into that space where you have absolutely no idea what you want. I can't tell you how many people I talk to that when I say, what do you want? They're like, I don't know I don't even know what I want. And I literally had somebody tell me, I would get out of XYZ space, but I don't even know what I would want if I wasn't doing that. Like they were doing something that was so unfulfilling to them, but they just kept doing it because they're like, well, I don't even know what else I would do. So we're just getting to that point where we are insanely disconnected from ourselves. And I want to talk about this because I want to give you the tool or the tools on how to start doing that, how to start connecting with yourself so that you can not only know what your purpose is, but you can start fulfilling your soul's desires. So, the biggest ticket item to surpass or overcome or get beyond the surface level stuff that we're all engaged with, from a conditioning standpoint or from a just doing life standpoint and having no idea what we want because we have no idea how to connect with ourselves. The first major step in this is understanding that your soul speaks in emotions. And this is a hot ticket item, I think, because when I say this to people, they're like, what? And I think the reason it's a struggle to understand that is because we're not necessarily taught that our emotions are good. In fact, I think there's a lot of rhetoric out there. There's even probably books, podcasts, courses, all sorts of stuff on how to control your emotions. And that being the key to your success. And so there's nothing that probably like grinds my gears more than hearing that, because you're just being, what you end up doing is you hear the control your emotions, and that turns into shut your emotions down, shut your emotions off. And when you're doing that, you're literally cutting off your ability to communicate and connect with yourself. You're cutting off your ability to understand what it is your soul wants, because your soul speaks in emotions. And so I want to make sure I really fully explain this, because I think a lot of people get in that mix of like, but I thought emotions were bad. I thought I was trying to control my emotions. So I actually subscribe more to the control your mind, because what can end up happening and what can get very confusing is you start listening to your emotions, but that are being caused by your mind. And then you're like, well, Melissa, how am I supposed to fulfill my soul's desires based on my emotions when my emotions are anxiety, fear, frustrations, sadness? And I hear you, I understand you, but what I want you to understand is that those emotions are potentially coming from, yes, your soul, but are being created by a little fearmonger called the mind. So when our mind gets in the way of fulfilling our purpose, which is fulfilling our soul's desires, a lot ends up happening and getting created that we're trying to fight off. It's like, it's like you're trying to wear a shield and things are just coming at you, and you're just trying to protect yourself, but it gets to be too much. And so your soul just starts freaking out. And that's when you're feeling these high emotions that they're almost feel like they're uncontrollable. And so a big component of all of this is understanding that a lot of your emotions will be driven not from pure intentions, but more so from the mind's intention to freak you out, make you scared, make sure you don't do anything different on a day-to-day basis, even if your higher self or your soul are asking for something different in life. So with all that being said, I really want to articulate the idea that if you really subscribe to understanding that your purpose is to carry out your soul's desires and hearing your soul speak is through your emotions, then you have to take that next step of subscription and understand that a lot of your feelings are going to be driven from your mind. And if you can't get control over your mind, then you're going to have a lot of emotions that are based out of fear or worry or, anxiety or sadness or any of the above, because a lot of times what ends up happening is our mind is just desperately trying to keep us safe, which is great. We need that. But in that process, it kind of sends signals to your body and your mind and your soul that says, do not change a thing. I don't care what we're talking about here. Do not change a thing, because if you change something, we might die, because I can't predict that. That's your mind. That's your mind talking to you. And then what ends up happening is your soul starts feeling stressed or nervous or worried. Okay, yeah, I'm just, oh my God, I don't know. Like I want to do this thing, but it feels like I'm really scared to, so I'm not going to take action because apparently the mind says we might die. And I think a really good example of this is most of my adult life. Like I remember being in my late 20s and thinking about wanting to be a life coach, which is funny. And actually Marie Forleo did this when she was in her 20s, if you know who that is. And she went on to be very successful. She is very successful. But at the time, I thought I was just too scared. I had never really experienced anybody who was like me. I never really experienced anybody who was like me. I never saw anybody go out on their own. And all I wanted was to be a life coach and be on my own. I wanted to own my own business. I think from a really young age, I had this like deep-seated desire to have a lot of freedom and a lot of I can move over here and I can move over there and I can. Granted, I didn't do it, but for years on end, my poor soul was like, please, can we please do this? Like I felt it over and over and over and again. And I kept trying to pacify my soul by getting positions and jobs that I thought I really enjoyed and that I could really connect with. And then it came a day where my soul said no more. And I had a complete panic attack. I was driving to work, had a complete panic attack. It took me almost 2 hours to get home. I was only about 15, 20 minutes from my house, maybe a little bit more, but it took me seriously 2 hours to get home. And the reason for all that is because I think my soul just seriously said, enough. Enough. I am going to scream as loud as I possibly can so you will finally listen to me, which at the end of the day, it was a tough time. I don't wish that on anybody. It took me a long time to get past my anxiety. I mean, because it was to the point where it wasn't just, ooh, I'd have anxiety and then it would go away. No, it was 24/7 anxiety and I couldn't drive. I was too scared to drive. It was like this thing that was happening where I was so freaked out that I was doing the wrong thing in life. I was so freaked out that I wasn't living my purpose. And so it went into this major anxiety moment, and that led me to feel like really afraid to die, because I felt like if I died, then I had never lived my purpose. I was just so afraid of that. I was so afraid of feeling like, gosh, if I don't do something that is in relation to my purpose and I die tomorrow, I'm not going to be very happy about that. And to be honest with you, I don't have those feelings anymore, because I know that I'm living out my purpose on a daily basis. I know that I'm fulfilling my soul's desires on a daily basis. When my soul gets excited about something, we have communication about it, and I say, oh, okay, you like that. We're going to do more of that. And I take action to do it. I don't leave her hanging. And so I give that example because I do really think that for a lot of us, this is what ends up happening, is we kind of hit that rock bottom moment where we can't ignore it anymore because our soul screams so loud. And what I'm suggesting, or what I'm offering to you, is don't get to that point. Instead, figure out a way that you can fulfill your soul's desires by starting with connecting with your soul and understanding what your soul wants, which again is through emotion. So if you're getting excited about something, you think something would be fun, your job is to just carry out just carry it out, just do it. Doesn't matter what that means. Don't worry about can I make money? Blah, blah, blah. Those things will come. You'll figure those things out. But the first action is just to turn inward and say, okay, if that's what you really want to do, we're going to do that. And then you keep on iterating from there and you keep on building from there. And eventually your mind does get on board and it stops sending all these crazy signals to your mind, to your soul and your body that says, oh my God, stop doing that. So I want to make sure I talk about this concept a good bit because it is really the gateway or the highway or the whatever way you want to look at it, the keys. The key to finding your purpose is understanding that the definition of finding your purpose is fulfilling your soul's desires. And how you do that and how you listen to your soul is through emotions. And there's a lot to this in the sense of where else this shows up in your life, like consoling your soul when your soul's really worried or stressed. Like that's a whole different ball of wax. But as it relates to purpose, it's really important for you to understand that your soul is going to communicate with you through emotions, and it's your job to listen to those emotions. And unfortunately, we're living in a world where we were told not to do that. Don't, emotions are bad. And so a lot of us are really uncomfortable with emotions, and so we numb those away through various avenues. So then we end up in a place where we feel very unfulfilled. And to avoid that, I think it's pretty simple. Stop numbing, first and foremost, and try to move toward a place where at least once a day you're listening to where the emotions are and you're responding and reacting in a way that makes your soul feel like you're really listening to her. And then that just leads into more and more and more and more fulfillment. It just leads to more and more and more peace, leads to more and more and more happiness. So I hope this helps. And if you've gotten this far, I also would love to ask you, hit the subscribe button and leave me some comments. Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear how this resonates. If this makes any sense, does it make sense for you to listen to your emotions? And if not, why? And if so, great. I'd love to hear about that too. So till next time, bye guys.